As a teacher turned technical analyst for higher education, there are a few things I am passionate about. I am passionate about technology. I am also passionate about teaching. Most of all, I am passionate about finding ways to better teach using technology. My name is Jon-Michael Wallace, and this is my Learning Manifesto. I believe teaching, especially at the higher education level, needs to be different because it's based on the content area and it's based on the desired outcome of the material. Firstly, I believe that teaching needs to provide learning that is accessible to all students, including each of the 4 learning styles. I follow the VARK model introduced by Fleming and Mills: visual, auditory, reading and writing, and kinesthetic. Looking at traditional higher education, PowerPoint presentations and live lecture only covers the auditory and reading-writing spectrum. When we look at statistics developed by Fleming, we find that 73% of our students are alienated with this traditional lecture type. I believe that technology now allows us to provide a true flipped classroom with information available to the students prior to the lecture. This allows us to utilize low-stakes formative assessments to gauge understanding. The teacher can then respond to cover content areas that are not directly understood, and the rest of the class time is used to develop the content in ways that are appropriate to how the students will use the information. An example from my time as a teacher of this type of an assignment is as follows. The content area being covered was special effects in audio recordings. The students were tasked with recreating a microwave cake. The class was separated into 3 groups, one with instructions and labeled ingredients, one with labeled ingredients only, and one with ingredients that were not labeled. All of the groups had the ingredients that they needed, but they also had some ingredients that they did not need. Their job was to recreate this microwave cake as closely as possible. The reasoning behind the assignment is, as an audio engineer, they had to be able to listen to a song, tear it apart, and identify the individual elements within that song. Then we would be able to use those elements or ingredients in a different song or to recreate that song. During my time in higher education, I have worked in departments that specifically teach a trade. I believe that at the higher education level, we need to shift our teaching so that students interact with the content in the ways that they would interact with that same information while they are on their job. Specifically looking at the area of nursing, the American Nursing Association describes nursing as both an art and a science, a heart and a mind. At its heart lies a fundamental respect for human dignity and an intuition for a patient's needs. This is supported by the mind in the form of rigorous core learning. They also say nursing has a unifying ethos. While assessing a patient, nurses do not just consider test results. Through the critical thinking exemplified in the nursing process, nurses use their judgment to integrate objective data with subjective experience of a patient's biological, physical, and behavioral needs. The National Council for State Boards of Nursing, who is responsible for the licensure of all nurses, recently completed a study looking at the exam for licensure. They separated nursing into high-priority skills and abilities. Looking at their study, I've found that it falls into 2 major areas: communication and higher-level thinking. As such, higher education needs to be responsible for shifting our learning so that we are teaching nurses at the college level the appropriate communication skills to allow professional communication, active listening, therapeutic communication, documenting, and client education, and the ability to be understood orally, to express themselves orally, and written. The other major area of focus was in higher level thinking. Nurses needed to have clinical judgment, problem solving, critical thinking, client monitoring, and focused assessment, and the ability to appropriately order and prioritize tasks and information. Higher education is responsible for providing education in a way that meets these needs, both communication and higher level thinking. As Godin pointed out, schools were initially developed to create better employees for the workplace. The workplace has changed, and the needs of the employees in that workplace has changed. Higher education needs to change to continue to meet those needs in a better way.